Live at 5 with RT International. A suicide bomber targets a Shia mosque in eastern Saudi Arabia today. Some reports suggest up to 30 people have been killed. Many more have been injured too. Meantime, Islamic State reportedly now controls half of Syria as Washington bolsters its arms sales to the Middle East despite previous weapon shipments ending up in terrorist hands. We examine that coming up. And an audit reveals financial irregularities worth nearly $2 billion at Russia's Roskosmos space agency, which has been plagued by a string of corruption scandals and failed rocket launches. Thanks for being with RT International, live from Moscow. My name's Kevin Owen. Our top story then, a suicide bomber is struck at a Shia mosque in Saudi Arabia. Reports suggest up to 30 were killed, many more were injured there. That attack came during Friday prayers. No one said they were behind the bombing at the moment, but there's been a similar attack too on a Shia mosque in Yemen, where Saudi Arabia is leading an airstrike currently. The Islamic State has reportedly said it carried out that mosque bombing. The Saudi coalition is targeting Houthi rebels inside Yemen. According to residents of Sana'a, Riyadh has stepped up airstrikes, focusing on the presidential compound in the city now. And the border between the nations in some places has turned into the front line of a conflict zone. At least one Saudi citizen has been killed and 2 wounded in a cross-border rocket attack as well, launched from inside Yemen. Let's hopefully cross a little bit later to journalist Dan Glazebrook. We're hoping to catch up with him on the line a little bit later. So, as I say, live comment coming up on that shortly. But Islamic State is now in control of half of the territory of Syria more broadly, according to a UK-based human rights group. The jihadist self-proclaimed caliphate now covers almost 100,000 square kilometres. Among their latest seizures is the strategically important city of Palmyra, that's close to the Iraqi border. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and fears are mounting that the extremists will turn it to rubble. The Islamist efforts to grab land in the Middle East have been facilitated by American-made weapons that were left behind by fleeing government forces. So Washington's arms appear to be ending up in the wrong hands. RT obtained this video allegedly showing the Iraqi army raiding an Islamic State warehouse. Some of the weapons have clear US markings. Next, the Neil Harvey looks at how ISIL's advance is spurring Washington to inject yet more arms into the restless Middle East.
This arms industry is booming, and among their biggest clients is Israel. US State Department's just approved an almost $2 billion deal, which will see Israel receive hundreds of bunker-buster bombs, Hellfire missiles and air-to-air missiles, plus thousands of glide bombs. They'll also get missile guidance systems. These are called tail kits, and they turn the average unguided bomb into one with GPS. As to why they're actually needed, well, the Defence Security Cooperation Agency says that Israel's order includes weapons it already has, which suggests that stocks might need replenishing following last summer's war in Gaza. But it's not just the Israelis who are on a spending spree. Also, buying bigger, Saudi Arabia, fresh from their bombing campaign in Yemen. Saudis are bolstering their aerial strength with 10 US Seahawk helicopters. Also in the package are radar systems and Hellfire missiles. The total price, again, almost $2 billion. And the spending doesn't stop there among the Gulf nations. Last year, Qatar signed up for $11 billion worth of Apache helicopters plus Javelin and Patriot air defence systems. And those Patriot missiles, well, they're in demand in Europe as well, with Poland in multi-billion-dollar talks to buy the system from the US, citing a Russian threat. But as the level of technology used in warfare increases, so does the number of fatalities, with the average number of people dying in each conflict now triple that from 7 years ago.
Indeed, the number of deaths during conflicts in 2014 reached 180,000. That's even though the overall number of wars being fought worldwide has decreased. Anti-war activist Beberapa from the Answer Coalition told us Washington sees business opportunities in armed conflicts.
We can see over the past 14 years, starting with the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan in October 2001, then the United States invasion of Iraq in 2003, and the continued occupation of both of those countries for more than a decade, and then the bombing of Libya by NATO powers led by the United States, and then the infusion of arms into Syria's civil war, funds and arms. All of this has contributed to the fragmentation of the Middle East, but of course has been a great source of profit for those who make weapons. In the United States, the military-industrial complex, the war contractors, they're a principal part of the American economy, and for them, this has been very big business.
China is growing increasingly irate over the expanding US military presence in its backyard. Coming up, then, we tell you why that's got billionaire George Soros worried about the possibility of a third world war. Also ahead too, Ireland's voting in a referendum on same-sex marriages. We look at claims that the No campaign is being bullied by the political elite of the country. There have been skirmishes outside Ukraine's parliament building, the Rada in Kiev. People were taking part in an anti-government rally calling for the restructuring of loans they took out in dollars and euros. But leaving all the troubles back home for a while at least, the Ukrainian president himself is away in the Latvian capital Riga. He's there for the Eastern Partnership Summit between the EU and some of the former Soviet European states. It's the group's first meeting since 2013, and despite the civil unrest in Kiev and the rejection of a visa-free regime with the EU, President Poroshenko nonetheless is full of smiles and optimism.
As a disappointed person?
I don't know.
Not at all. I'm completely, fully satisfied with that.
Satisfied he may be, but Brussels is certainly in no hurry to meet Kiev's aspirations. Even though the EU's agreed a €1.8 billion loan to Ukraine, neither a visa-free regime nor EU membership have made it to the summit's final declaration. It's not clear when they'll become a reality. The Serge Trifkovic, international affairs analyst and editor from Chronicles magazine, told me he believes the EU's not willing to take in new partners.
Even a symbolic gesture like granting Ukraine and Georgia visa-free travel to the Schengen countries has not been achieved. It is quite obvious from what transpired in Riga that the older members of the European Union are suffering from an acute case of enlargement fatigue.
An audit's found financial irregularities worth nearly $2 billion at the Russian space agency. Roskosmos has been under intense scrutiny lately, owing to a spate of corruption scandals and botched rocket launches. RT's Anna Julia Hedges reports.
Staggering figure was found actually as the Russian accounts chamber was carrying out its checks on the budgeting for the year of 2014, when they found that the Russian space agency Roskosmos actually made financial violations for a sum of $1.8 billion. Actually a sum so huge that the head of the accounts chamber said that she herself couldn't believe her ears when she first heard it. According to the report, these were financial irregularities mostly linked to the fact that there was a misuse of the budget as well as a mismanagement of the funding that the Roskosmos agency were allocated for the construction of their facilities. Now, with regards to the main and most costly accidents that recently took place, where we look back at 2013, well then a Russian Proton rocket that was carrying navigation satellites ended up crashing just a few seconds after lifting off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. In May 2015, or this year, we saw a Mexican satellite actually crashing, similarly not being able to detach itself from the Proton rocket that had lifted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. And this specific accident is one that is estimated at a cost of